Ever since the arrest of P. Diddy, who is being brought up on sex trafficking charges, amongst many, many other things, there's been a flurry of speculation about how this is going to impact both the cultural and political world, because P. Diddy appears to have been deeply intertwined with both worlds. But what few people are actually talking about is what produces something like what we're seeing with P. Diddy and these allegations. What produces the kind of grotesque stuff that we're seeing in Hollywood and also in our culture? And the answer is actually much closer to home than many of us want to admit. So in this video, we're going to look at the P. Diddy scandal and all of its different angles from an uncommon lens, the lens of philosophy. And we're going to ask ourselves the question, what role do we as consumers, as people who activate culture and make culture, play in being the upstream source of what might eventually go on, that is, the decadence in Hollywood and elsewhere? Before we get into that, my friends, hope all of you are doing well. Thank you so much for being here. I am Christian Watson. If you enjoy political and social commentary with a philosophical bent, then I must implore you, please, my friends, I don't do this kind of topic all the time, but I believe that it is important to address both cultural and political topics, because politics happens within the context of a society. Nothing happens in a vacuum, and so this topic is going to be especially important for us to try to dig into and understand. And so if you would like to see more of this content, you can support me, subscribe, like, share, donate if you feel so inclined. Thank you guys so much for being here. Now, please enjoy the video. So, for those of you who are not yet anointed with knowledge of the situation, I'll get you caught up. P. Diddy, who is a prominent entertainment mogul, prominent rapper, all kind of things. I never listened to his music personally. It's not my thing, but a lot of people liked him. He was a very big person. Has been charged with human trafficking or sex trafficking charges, amongst many other things, for allegedly forcing women, he did a lot of things, but allegedly forcing women to do things coercively. Now, Diddy also has a set of other allegations against him. Some people are saying that Diddy allegedly used to drug up certain people and then bring them into rooms in his many mansions to have sex with male prostitutes, things of that sort. He has a very sordid past, and there are a lot of very steamy allegations. Now, he's been denied bail by the judge. His crimes are so egregious that he was denied bail, and he has been put on suicide watch as well, which made a lot of people ask the question, or try to draw the parallel between what is happening with Diddy and what happened with Epstein. And I must say, there are most certainly very striking parallels. Diddy was actually connected with some of the top people in the political class. He knew Kamala Harris. He knew Barack Obama. He knew the British royal family. He knew Oprah Winfrey. And within the sphere of Hollywood, he knew Jennifer Lopez, all these different people. And several celebrities, in response to his indictment, have actually deleted their social media accounts. Pink, Megan Fox, Usher, and others. They deleted, rather, posts from their social media accounts, which is causing speculation. People are asking what in the world is actually going on here, and I think I have a few answers for all of you. So first of all, you must understand something. When it was announced that P. Diddy, during the raid of P. Diddy's properties, there was 1,000 bottles of baby oil found, which were allegedly used to facilitate sex acts, my immediate response wasn't to laugh or wasn't even to grimace. My immediate response was, we, as consumers of entertainment, we're not responsible for what happened, but we have more of a role in the kind of culture surrounding what has happened than we would like to admit. Because ultimately, my friends, this downfall of P. Diddy is happening within the context of celebrity culture. Now, I've gone through celebrity culture in past videos. In fact, I have a video called Why Celebrity Culture is Disgustingly Anti-American, because I genuinely believe that the pillars upon which celebrity culture is built upon are fundamentally inimical to the spirit of the United States. I won't go into all those different arguments in this video, but I will elaborate upon them very shortly and then try to tie them into this. I give 4 arguments in that video as to why I believe celebrity culture is dangerous. My first argument is that celebrity culture opposes meritocracy and replaces it with status. You will probably see a lot of different people that you look at and you ask, why are those people famous? Well, because meritocracy is not always the standard. Sometimes there's other strings being pulled. Second argument, against celebrity culture is that it gives people a false understanding of excellence. And then that changes how people view the weight of their favorite celebrities' political opinion. We always see celebrities getting involved in politics, and there will be people that applaud them and that act as if they had just heard a word from the Pope simply because that person has status. Well, because this idea of excellence, this false idea of excellence, weights their opinion differently in an undue way. Third is that celebrity culture perpetuates this myth of perpetual comfort. And the fourth is celebrity culture is driven by the superficial, whether it be outrage, clicks, aesthetics, whereas they are not driven by underlying values, which is the sustaining agent of any culture. Out of all of these arguments against celebrity culture, for our purposes in this situation, number 3, celebrity culture perpetuates a myth of perpetual comfort, is actually the most relevant to this particular case with P. Diddy. Celebrity culture, my friends, gives its participants a wide berth to pursue hedonistic excess with impunity, but it fails in shielding them from accountability for their actions. This is a rinse and repeat cycle we see whenever a celebrity rises and flames out, whether it be Amanda Bynes, who had her problems, whether it be Kesha, whether it be Britney Spears, who all had their own different problems for their own different reasons, but they were all connected by the unifying fact that they were participants of celebrity culture, and once their usefulness was used up by the entertainment system, they were chewed up and thrown out. Whether it be what has happened with Corey Feldman. He has been someone who has been very clear about the kind of abuses that go on in Hollywood towards younger actors. And there are a lot of kid actors in Hollywood who, as adults, are mentally scarred for what they allege actually happened to them. In most cases, abuse and things that I can't really see on YouTube that are absolutely horrible that no child, no one should have to go through. But these are all features, not bugs, of a culture built upon human desire. Now, what do I mean? Why did celebrity culture come about in the first place? Because people want to be entertained. That is why. And people wanted to be entertained to the extent that they would go out and they would furnish means for their entertainment. They would go out and buy their favorite actors' movies. They would go out and buy the records of their favorite singer. They would go out and see the stand-up comedy routines of their favorite comedians. And over time, as these things became monetized and these things became more prominent and they entered into the public consciousness, these things became a dominant industry. Now, if the root of celebrity culture is human desire, because ultimately, what is the desire? What is the root for entertainment? The root of entertainment is our desire to be entertained. It's a pastime. It's a pleasure. And man's activity is largely divided into 2 categories. Not just 2 categories, but generally 2 categories. The category of intellection, how you think and how your thoughts guide your actions every day, and the category of leisure, which is, doesn't have to exclude thinking, but is more so just relaxation and not worrying about the worries of the world. That's from which celebrity culture comes from. So if you have a culture built upon the desire to sustain human desire, if it's built upon human desire, then you should expect that culture to embody both the best and the worst parts of human desire. Because our desires will sometimes lead us to very strange places. Some of us may desire, for example, to see a horror movie where someone's getting butchered up and murdered, even if that's not necessarily good for our soul. Now, by the way, I'm not attacking horror movies. I myself am a horror movie fan, but this is just a general example. Our desires don't necessarily lead us to places that our mind would lead us to, or that our morals or our values would lead us to, because we can then compartmentalize our desires as being products or being played out in the realm of fiction. Movies are fiction, right? Comic books are fiction, right? Comedy is just a person in a controlled setting doing something funny, right? These things are all controlled, and we can then therefore separate them from the real world. Video games are just video games, right? But the problem is this. These things, even if they may seem like they're fiction, or they may just seem like they're for a particular time in a particular place, they have an outgrowing culture. They create an outgrowing culture that impacts the real world. Video games lead to gamer communities, and it leads to impacting the way we speak. How many times have you heard someone say, that guy is an NPC? Probably have heard it, haven't you? Especially if you spend a long enough time on the internet. That is a gaming term. That is a gaming term. When I was like 6 or 7, I used to play World of Warcraft and RuneScape. We used to call people NPCs on there. There were like NPCs in the game that you would go up to get quests. That's a gaming term. Movies impact our understanding of things, so on and so forth. These things are not just fiction. They are outcomes of human desire. So when human desire is the fundamental principle of these things, you may get, again, the best of it, which can be fulfilling that leisure requirement. It may be even edifying us, because sometimes art can give us some knowledge about ourselves that we wouldn't have considered without seeing it. Or it can lead to hedonistic excess, because human desire by itself does not have any constraining principles. That is why you see so many celebrities going to highfalutin parties and getting drunk or having DUI problems. That is why so many celebrities have so many different problems with their families or so many different mental issues. That is why you see so many cases of abuse happening at the highest levels within Hollywood. Let's look at Justin Bieber, for example. A lot of folks talked about Justin Bieber within the context of P. Diddy. Justin Bieber, there was a clip that I'm going to show you guys where P. Diddy was basically saying, to 15-year-old Justin Bieber, that he had legal ownership of Justin Bieber, legal guardianship, and that he had 48 hours with him. And he did things with Justin Bieber that could not be repeated. Go.
And you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher. I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
Mind you, this is a 15-year-old boy and like a 30-something-year-old man, a much older man. And by the way, I don't care how much older he is. A 15-year-old kid, you don't say that. I don't care how much older. You don't say that to a 15-year-old kid. That is absolutely grotesque. But then Usher Raymond, another prominent singer who deleted his social media following, allegedly, according to his own words, spent time with P. Diddy when he was around the same age Justin Bieber was, according to reports. And P. Diddy said in that clip that he had legal ownership over, or he worked with Usher when his first album came out, which was when he was a young man as well. And this stuff was not necessarily seen. If it was seen as bad, the outcry didn't happen because P. Diddy continued to persist for many years after that, doing political events for Democrats, connecting with royal family, you know, being in all these different places, being with Barack Obama. He continued to persist as a public figure, despite these comments being public and made. How in the world could this happen? If any normal person said the same thing that he said in the context of a 15-year-old boy, they would be investigated and most likely charged for child endangerment, or worse. How could this happen? Because a culture built upon human desire does not have the same standards that a healthy culture, that a regular culture has. Celebrity culture is a product of human desire without guardrails. All the excesses, very little of the benefits. And I can get into why I think celebrity culture is deteriorated from what it used to be. Celebrity culture in the 1920s and 1930s, when the Rat Pack was around and Sinatra was around, or Judy Garland, which was, by the way, there was some bad stuff happening back then, but not to this extent, is nowhere near as bad as it is now. And celebrity culture today is nowhere near refined as it was back then. But these things can happen. R. Kelly, for example, many of you may have known of R. Kelly. There was a video that came out about him in the early 2000s of him doing things to a minor child that I'm not going to repeat here because I don't want my child to get taken down, that were grotesque. It was on video. Everyone knew it was him, and yet for years afterwards, he persisted as a public figure until it came out that he had abused his own wife, allegedly, or basically he was convicted for it. He had done things with kids and recorded it. He abused more people, but that celebrity culture kept him standing up because human desire without guardrails is destructive. I know I'm repeating the same thing over and again, but you need to understand this because human desire will romanticize things and place them, as I mentioned, in a different compartment that then makes us judge things differently than we would have otherwise. You don't want to know the person that whose music you sustained your childhood on could possibly be a monster, because all you remember about them are the good things that their work made you feel. So you are willing to compartmentalize. Maybe not you, but enough people are that it keeps this facade up. The thing is, we have the authority as moral people, as thinking people, to stop things like this, maybe not from happening, but to get rid of the antecedent, to get rid of the prerequisite for things like this to happen by demanding more of ourselves and demanding more of our culture. Now, before I close, I talked about high celebrity culture. I must get into high political culture. Normally, when you associate with figures like the royal family, with Barack Obama, with Kamala Harris, whoever, all these very big political figures, when you hold political rallies like Diddy did, you gain insider connections that put you on a certain level within that culture. The truth is, celebrity culture and high political culture where the elites exist in, they aren't that different. In fact, I would even say they are two sides of the same coin. Because a culture that produces celebrity culture and all its vacuousness and all of its non-guardrails is the same culture that will have a certain mentality towards politics, that will make politicians into celebrities. A politician is meant to serve the public. They're meant to uphold the Constitution. They're meant to be an arbiter of, number one, the principles and ethics embodied in the Constitution, and number two, a guardian of them within the realms of whatever part of government they're in. They're not meant to be celebrities, and yet a culture that is about consuming and about desire and chasing desire will see itself in different people. And this goes to a much deeper problem of human imitation, ultimately. Because every society wants heroes, but some societies value heroes in a way that is different from other societies to the extent that it produces idols. And when you have a society of idols and not heroes, you have a society that is willing to be subservient towards certain people and their ideas. It's a different story, different day. So that same society that's creating this vacuous celebrity culture is the same one that creates this vacuous political culture and allows their politicians to reign high on high with status, when politicians should not be the ones that are aggrandized. We, the people, should be the ones that are lifted up and our demands understood and answered to. There's so many dynamics at play here, but all of it comes down to us, whether it's P. Diddy, whether it's high political elites scheming with celebrities to move public opinion, whether it's P. Diddy having a place in public life despite things about him being known, well-established, and well-documented. All of it comes back to us. What kind of civilization, what kind of society do you want to have? That's the question that our founders asked themselves when they found themselves staring down muskets and staring down the tyranny of King George in their day. And they turned to natural law and reason and consent of the governed and moral thinking. What are we going to turn to? Are we going to turn back to those sound, solid principles and see greatness within ourselves and stop projecting our desires into entire cultures that ultimately end up being toxic? Or are we going to forget the past, as so many people like Kamala Harris have been telling us to do, and instead project towards the future what we have right now, and therefore allow ourselves to sink further and further and further into decay as a society? Because what we have right now, the idols and heroes and people we have right now that are prominent, many of them are not worth, I won't say what I'm going to say, are not worth the trouble to idolize or even to admire. Many of them got to where they got simply because someone who was in some company or some institution decided to lift them up. And that's a hard truth we're going to have to face. Be mad at Diddy, of course. Condemn what he did, of course. But also, ask yourself the question, who lifted him up? Who lifted Epstein up? And then I want you to look very closely at what you're doing and what your friends are doing and what your community is doing, what your country are doing, and what are we lifting up as a people? maybe if we discuss that and fix our own problem of human desire and project it into towards a healthier way, maybe then we'll have less P. Diddy's and more situations that are reflective of the kind of civilization that good moral people want. Just a thought. My friends, like, share, comment, subscribe, do whatever you can to get our message out there. My friends, study history, study philosophy, remain morally convicted, and please stay pensive. Bye, guys.